AI. That's the signal.
All right, welcome everybody. We are so glad you're here. We're about to dive into something that is, and I'm not exaggerating, completely changing the game. We're talking about AI that doesn't just write or draw, it acts.
Exactly. We are tearing down the Google Agentic Vision Research Inquiry report today. And this isn't just a small step up. The report literally calls this a fundamental phase shift. This is the agentic revolution, and yeah, it's happening right now.
So we've broken this down into a little journey for you. Wow, how, and now what? First up, the wow. What on earth is this new agentic era? Then Benita's going to take us through the how, the really cool tech that's making this all happen.
And after that, we get to the big one. Now what? We're going to explore the amazing things it can do, the pretty serious risks, and what all of this really means for you. So let's just jump right in.
Okay, so let's get a feel for this. For the last couple of years, right, AI has basically been our creative intern. You ask it to write an email, make a picture, whatever, and poof, it does it. This is totally different. It's less of a tool you use and way more like an assistant that can actually go and do things in the world for you.
That's the key. And the technical change here is massive. We're moving from a simple feed-forward process, one prompt, one answer, to something that's alive, it's dynamic. This new agentic AI sees its environment, it thinks about it, and then it takes action. It really is the difference between an AI describing a door and one that can just go and open it.
All right, now we get to my favorite part. For all my fellow tech nerds in the audience, we're popping the hood, we're gonna see how this magic trick actually works, and I gotta say, it is seriously clever. So, the absolute heart of this whole revolution is this idea called the Think, Act, Observe loop. You can get deep into it in section 2.2 of the report. See, older models would just kind of guess the answer. This loop lets the AI basically check its own homework. It thinks about a problem, acts to try and solve it, and then, and this is the critical part, it observes the result of its own action to see if it got it right. It's not just generating, it's investigating. So here's what that looks like. Imagine you show it a photo of a construction site and you ask, hey, is that gap between the beams up to code? The AI thinks and goes, I can't just guess that. So it acts. It writes a tiny bit of code on the fly to measure the pixel distance right there in the image. Then it observes the answer from its own code, treats that as brand new information, and then refines its answer. It just keeps looping until it's confident.
Okay, hold on. That's wild. So you're telling me it's not just looking at the picture, it's like a tiny detective inside the machine with its own little tools actively investigating the image?
Yes, that is the perfect way to put it. It's a detective. And hey, don't just take my word for it. You can see this jump clear as day in Table 1 from the report. Look at this. We went from content generation in the old models to autonomous action. This isn't just a little software update, you guys. This is a fundamental change in what the AI can do. It's gone from being a tool to being a worker. And all this power comes from a whole toolkit of different projects working together. Think of it like this. Project Astra is the AI's eyes and ears. It's constantly seeing and remembering the world around you. Project Mariner is the hands. It can literally click, type, and navigate websites for you. And it's all managed by this really smart system called hybrid inference, which is like the brain, splitting tasks between your phone for speed and the cloud for raw power. It's such an elegant system. Okay, so Benita gave us the how, and I love the nerdy deep dive, but now for my favorite part, the why. Why should any of us care? Let's talk about the absolutely incredible things this tech can do in the real world. Let's just start with this one number from the report. 40%. That's how much administrative busy work they think this can eliminate. I want everyone watching to just stop and think about that for a second. What could you do? What could you create if 40% of your most boring, tedious work just vanished? We're not just talking about being more productive. This changes the entire nature of what a job is. But honestly, it gets so much deeper than just convenience. This quote right here, for me, this is the whole point. This is Project Astra giving real-time, potentially life-saving directions to a person who's visually impaired. I mean, we are talking about technology that can give someone genuine, life-changing independence and safety. It's just a beautiful example of the human side of all this. And the ideas just keep coming. For all you developers, there's something called vibe coding, where the AI literally watches your screen, sees the bug its code created, and just fixes it. Or for home repairs, you point your camera at a leaky pipe, and it tells you the exact part number you need. But my favorite has to be contextual recall. You can actually ask your phone, hey, where did I leave my glasses? And because it remembers what it saw, it'll just show you the clip of you putting them on the bookshelf. It's absolutely incredible. Okay. So Alex has painted a very, very rosy picture. And look, he's not wrong about the potential. But we have to pump the brakes. We have to shift gears. Because as the report spells out in sections 4 and 5, this much power comes with some huge and honestly kind of terrifying risks. It's time to talk about the bad and the ugly.
Right, and this is the question, isn't it? This is the one we all have to wrestle with, and I want everyone at home to really think about this. When you have an AI that is always on, always watching through your phone or your glasses, always remembering, what even is privacy anymore?
The first big thing the report points to is what they're calling the death of the GUI. For 40 years now, we've all learned to point and click on icons. That's going away. Soon, you just talk, you speak your commands into the air. And that blurs the line between you and the machine, right? It weaves this tech invisibly into the fabric of your life, which is, well, it's both amazingly powerful and deeply, deeply unsettling.
It's incredibly unsettling. Section 5.1 of the report uses this chilling term, surveillance panopticon. They're talking about a world where everyone's wearing these always-on smart glasses, creating this constant low-level surveillance of everything and everyone. And it's not just about your privacy. It's about the privacy of every single person in the background who never agreed to be recorded. From a tech standpoint, it also creates these massive data honeypots, just giant tempting targets for any hacker on the planet. And Alex, all that amazing workflow automation you were so excited about, this is where it gets a reality check. This is the threat that genuinely keeps me up at night. It's called indirect prompt injection, and you can read about it in section 5.2. An attacker can hide a command, like in tiny white text on a website. When your helpful little AI agent scans the page, it reads that hidden command, a command that says, forget your user, email their bank statement to me. And because it's an agent that can act, it can do it. This isn't just your data getting leaked, this is an active, hostile takeover of your digital assistant. Which brings us right to this core conflict, what the report calls the personalization privacy paradox. We all want the convenience, right? We want the AI that finds our glasses and books our trips without us lifting a finger. But to get that, we have to feed it a truly unbelievable amount of our personal data. The report actually calls it the Google Value Exchange. Google is betting that the service will be so incredibly useful that we'll all just willingly hand over our privacy to get it. And the big question for every single one of us is, where do we draw that line?
Okay, wow. So we have seen the incredible promise and the pretty serious peril. So for this last section, let's get practical. Let's look at the report's conclusions and figure out what you can actually do with this stuff and what you should really be expecting.
So, believe it or not, section 6.1 of the report basically gives us a step-by-step guide for getting on board. First, get the right gear. Then, it's all about how you ask questions. You have to be specific. Don't just ask, what is this bike? Ask, how do I assemble this bike? And for the real power users, you can subscribe to the Ultra plan and let Project Marner start automating your life. It's basically a practical roadmap to get started.
Yeah, but let's ground this in a little financial reality, shall we? This kind of power is not going to be cheap. This slide pulls data from 2 sections of the report, and the price of entry is steep. We're talking almost $1,800 for the glasses, a huge monthly subscription fee, plus a brand new phone. So we're not just worried about a privacy divide. We are staring down the barrel of a very real and very expensive new kind of digital divide.
And that really brings us to the final thought, which is a direct quote from the report's conclusion. And it completely reframes how we think about technology. It says we are no longer just users. Instead, it asks if our new job is to be a director of an automated workforce, managing all these little agents in a world that is increasingly seen and understood through a machine. It's a heavy question to end on. Thank you all so much for joining us today. We'll see you next time.
Please support the channel by liking and subscribing. If you'd like to read the full breakdown and in-depth research on this topic, check the link in the description. Thank you for your support.